Welcome back to another edition of looking at rejected MCU character designs. So if you didn't already know, for big franchises like Marvel, concept art is usually done before the script is even finished. Because for fast moving projects like that, they kind of have to think of things well before they have to actually start filming. And that's why we also get a lot of CGI costumes nowadays, because lots of decision making is done, after filming the actual movie. So let's look at some character designs that didn't make it to the final cut of MCU movies. I'm so excited for the new Tron movie. I couldn't believe it either. Yeah, this was indeed a design considered for Thor. Probably would have been the battlesuit he's given to fight in the arena with Hulk and stuff. And you can tell it's Thor because he has those 6 circle things, which he usually has in every one of his designs. But yeah, let's address that helmet. You're telling me we barely see him sport his iconic helmet throughout any of these movies, and then you consider giving him this birth defect Magneto helmet? I'm honestly convinced that this was one of those suits made to just sell merchandise, because let's be real, no one wants to see this thing on screen for more than 5 minutes. This is pretty much on par with that one Love and Thunder costume, and I couldn't even tell you which one's worse. However, I will say, if we took off the helmet, removed the sleeves, maybe chuck in the cape in there, we didn't have to, it could've looked pretty fucking sick. It's very, Jack Kirby, you know? I mean, the guy looks like an Eternal, okay? That's not Thor. I'm just saying, with the right modifications, this could've looked cool. But Disney, I know you own Tron, okay? But not everything has to be about goddamn brand synergy. Here we have Captain Pipertron. Now, I know most of us didn't really like what we ended up getting in the Avengers 2012 movie, but I think it's better than whatever this is. My eyes don't even know where to look. There are so many lines. Why does every single panel have to curl up around the edges? Every single one. I just want to get a stick of glue and just roll it around on the sides of every single panel and just flatten it out. But hey, let's be real, it's not that bad. The main issue with the costume we ended up getting was the helmet, and it seems like they were gonna go the same route here anyway. Actually, wait, no. This one has exposed ears, which I think in my book is definitely a +1, but it depends on how they do the neck thing, because I feel like that's the defining factor of how shitty it looks. Bucky Barnes as the Winter Megatron. As you can see here, they've clearly gone for something more mechanical looking for the arm rather than the sleek look we got in the movie. Would this arm have made more sense anatomically in terms of engineering? Yeah. Does it look better? Not really. I mean, come on, the guy's major weakness is someone tossing some sand in his arm, or some pebbles, or just a glass of water. I know it's a whole trend to make things more teched out and more realistic than it is in the comics, like Dr. Octopus's tentacles, but I think they ended up going with the right decision here. Because this arm just looks a bit generic, whereas the arm we got, whether it's more realistic or not, looks more iconic. But speaking of Dr. Octopus, look who we have here. Yes, this is indeed Doc Ock from the Ultimate Spider-Man animated series. This is making me realize that we never ended up seeing Winter Soldier without his mask and just his goggles, unless you count his eyeshadow, which is weird because I feel like the goggles were a substitute for the domino mask that Winter Soldier has in the comics, because we see him a lot with the mask but without the goggles, but not the other way around. Who knows, maybe Hydra was like, our final plan is to release COVID-19 onto the world, so be prepared for that. Anyway, definitely prefer the black they ended up going with, because to put it simply, it's just more badass. I don't mind the trench coat here, but I like the idea that he doesn't need any warmth because it's just so damn cold. Because at this point, he's just a mindless soldier being sent out on missions to assassinate people. Like, he's the fucking machine. Alright, next. Next we have Black Panther in Captain America Civil War. Oh my god. Black Panther had one of the strongest introductions in the MCU, and I'm afraid that if he came out swinging like this, no one would have been hungry for that solo movie. But let's get this out of the way. From the neck down, it looks pretty sick. It reminds me of the Nolan Batman suit before he sprays it black, which is such an oddly specific comparison, but it looks exactly the same. But the Batman comparisons don't stop there. Oh no, they don't, because my man's is out here with mouth and eyes just fully gaping. I know I spotted this look a couple times, like in the Ultimate Avengers animated movie, and even back then, it was a bit, hey, how you doing, you know? I believe he also has an exposed mouth in the new Black Panther Ultimate comic series. Well, it's not really new anymore because it's been running for more than a year. But going back to this. Oh man. I mean, it's not even just the eyes and the mouth, it's also the ears. They're really just short and sloped down. It's kind of giving Catwoman, because the ears we ended up getting pointed up, which makes a big difference because you know, these ears just look a bit submissive, a bit beta, if you will. Also, in case you ever get locked out of your house, I suggest hitting this guy up because one of the 20 keys around his neck will probably fit. Speaking of Civil War, we have Baron Zemo. You've probably already seen this one before and people online being like, oh, this one's so much more comic accurate. Why didn't they use this one? This was probably way before they wrote the script because I think the Zemo design we ended up getting was a better fit for the character that they had. Don't get me wrong, this obviously looks badass, but he ain't have to be doing all that, you know, a sword. Like, what's a sword gonna do against Iron Man or Captain America or Winter Soldier? Like, let's be real. Because I think a point in fact of MCU Zemo was that he was just a guy who lost his family. He wasn't some crazy teched out supervillain with a fucking sword, which is obviously a big departure from the comic version, who's I don't even know. He leads the Masters of Evil and he has daddy issues. And by looking at the eyes, it looks like they're gonna go for the whole, oh my god, Captain America, you ruined my face. It's all disfigured. I have to wear this mask from now on. I'm gonna get revenge. Which is funny because that's basically Crossbones in the same movie. I think in the comics, one of Zemo's driving motivations is to get revenge against Captain America for his father, which they kind of kept in the MCU, but they just chucked in some kids and a wife in there as well. And they carried a lot of this design to Zemo's appearance in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so, you know, it all worked out in the end, right? This Star-Lord definitely would not have fucked up in Infinity War. This clearly wasn't what they ended up going with, but this does look pretty fucking sick, if I do say so myself. So this is based on the comic version, and it's more in line with what I'd expect the Ravagers to look like, because the space pirate vibes are peaking here, and goddamn, that shit looks cold. However, similar to Zemo, just because it looks badass doesn't mean it's a better fit for the character. Because the Star-Lord we ended up getting was more of a charming, goofy Han Solo type, and this looks more like a Boba Fett. The round eyes, the exposed hair, and the leather jacket, I think it all fits the Star-Lord we ended up getting in the first Guardians of the Galaxy a lot more better than this. They kinda did move towards this look in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and I think they struck a pretty good balance between the comic version and the version they had already established. But it was kinda weird that he didn't have a helmet at all in number 3, and I think it was just a missed opportunity to have his full comic book look from head to toe. Star-Lord's still kicking though, so maybe we'll see him pick up a helmet like this one in the next 2 Avengers movies. Oh! Okay, I know at this point we're more used to seeing MCU Yondu rather than comic book Yondu, but this just seems a bit out of control. Does that mean it's bad? I don't know, I'm kind of undecided. There's a lot going on here, so let's go from top to bottom. I know we got the Yondu fin later on in the movies, but it just looks like for whatever reason, they hated the idea of it from the very beginning. Then we got an eye patch as well, and we also got some gills. So we can't add a fin, but we can add gills to the face. Oh, okay, I like the gills. Oh, fin, no. Too far, okay? No fin, please. Oh my god, no. And we have some armor that looks like it's taking inspiration from Mayan culture, which may have fit the comic book Archer version a bit more, but I guess in space anything goes. Also, it looks like they were never really going for the whole Archer look in the first place. In the right context, I think this could have worked. I kind of like how crazy this is. If the Ravagers weren't a uniformed organization and everyone were just doing their own thing in terms of aesthetics, then yeah, I think this could have been sick. Oh my god, what the fuck did they do? Apparently, they almost went with a rocket that looks triple the age of the rocket that we got. This rocket is definitely behind on his child support bills, his rent, and his AA meetings. It's not even just the hair, but you had to give him a beer belly too? But let's be real, if they did want to go for an older rocket, this one doesn't look that bad. I don't know why you'd ever want to go for an older rocket, but actually this looks like a good design for Rocket's father. If they never did the whole high evolutionary storyline and he had a whole species like him, just get Stellan Skarsgård to voice him and boom, you got yourself another classic James Gunn daddy issue story. Okay, but seriously, the amount of untrimmed hair on this guy is insane, and you don't want to be scaring people away like that. That's why I partnered with Manscaped for today's video. When we're talking about picking the best from a bunch of different looks, you can't just talk about characters, you have to look at yourself as well. Which is why you gotta check out the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra electric body trimmer from Manscaped, which now comes in white hot. I mean, look at that, that looks sick. Comes with one trimmer blade and one foil blade, depending on what grooming style you're after. I mean, it even comes with a built-in LED light, which I'm telling you is more useful than you think it is when navigating the human body body, okay? The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra has been a go-to favorite because of its many features like its rechargeable battery, its USB-C charging, and of course a battery indicator so you know that it won't die on you halfway throughout a grooming session. Also, it's waterproof, like come on. Use my promo code AndyMLee at manscaped.com for 15% off your entire order. That's 15% off with promo code AndyMLee at manscaped.com. Go clean yourself up, fellas. Dude, I love Astronaut Man. So there's definitely more of an insect look to this. We got more black and we got that big lens on the helmet. Not much of an ant look though. It looks kind of waspy, to be honest. He looks more like a pilot, which might be good if we want to focus on how he travels down to his micro size. It does look a bit inhumane though, which I know is a weird thing to say for a helmet. Like, oh, obviously a helmet isn't gonna look like a human. Who cares? As long as it looks cool. But from a creative standpoint, it's a bit hard to attach yourself to a protagonist who looks like this. That's why this Ant-Man looks more like a henchman rather than a main character. At least to me. And by the way, I am not an expert at any of this, okay? I'm just talking shit from my own head. And speaking of Ant-Man, we also have this alternate costume that was also considered. Lots of black, but way more broken up, so lots of panels everywhere, which I know a lot of people hate by now. But the one cool thing I'll say about this is that the black on his torso, it makes up a little ant head. Isn't that fun? I believe they took that approach for Ant-Man and Wasp's later costumes, which, you know, I think it's kind of fun to do stuff like that. The helmet is almost perfect. We got a visible mouth like the Ant-Man in the comics. But for both of these concept art pieces, we're missing the antennae, which really sells the whole ant aspect in my opinion. Overall, these two aren't bad, but I'm pretty happy with the one that we ended up getting in Ant-Man 1. That was a perfect mix of homemadeness and techiness. The real Into the Spider-Verse. Okay, so these were for Spider-Man Homecoming, which doesn't really make much sense because Spider-Man's full costume debut in the MCU was in Captain America Civil War. So what I'm thinking is they had that practical suit that they used for filming Civil War, and while they were filming that, they were going into pre-production for Homecoming, and that's when they were deciding on a real suit. Because that's when they CGI'd over the Civil War stuff and pretended that was the plan all along. Alright, anyway, so let's see what we got. Okay, two major influences I need to point out here, Ben Reilly Spider-Man and Superior Spider-Man. So the ones with the black going halfway to the torso, some Superior Spider-Man type shit, you know, when Doc Ock took over Peter's body and got a cool ass costume in the process. Then with the big spider on the regular strip of red, it's very similar to Ben Reilly's Spider-Man look. Or was it Scarlet Spider? I don't know. They kind of did take aspects of that for the Iron Spider suit, so there you go. I'm not really a fan of the blue from the legs carrying up into the spider logo into the torso. It just looks a bit too two-toned. Like it's a comic and it's meant to be black, but they put blue shading on it and now everyone assumes it's blue, like Spider-Man 2099. First of all, as much as I like the Superior Spider-Man suit, I don't think it would have been a good introduction suit. Like, come on, this is the first time we're gonna see Spider-Man in the MCU and you're gonna use the evil Spider-Man costume? What kind of message are we trying to send here? I don't think I would have minded something that looks more like Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly-ish, because we were just coming out of arguably one of the best one-to-one on-screen superhero costume adaptations of all time, so I think it would have been okay to just break things up a bit and try something a little bit different. In terms of the black, we did get the black and red combo in Far From Home, which looked pretty cool in my opinion, so I'm not too mad about them not picking the black here. I think what they ended up going with was a safe choice, but you know, these ones ain't so bad either. I do like the shade of blue here though. It blends in better with the tech lines everywhere and doesn't make them stand out as much. But now that you mentioned Ben Reilly, oh boy. This is literally a one-to-one pull of the Ben Reilly Scarlet Spider look from head to fucking toe. So this is obviously an alternate design for the homemade look, and man oh man, this would have been a brave choice. First of all, you're kind of eliminating any opportunity in the future to use this costume when the real Ben Reilly ever shows up. I mean, well, the odds of the MCU ever adapting the Clone Saga storyline is pretty slim because everyone hates it and everything. But they did manage to adapt One More Day, which people hate even more than the Clone Saga, so you never know. The homemade suit we got, I think it was pretty perfect. It was pretty much this though, except with the red and blue inverted. Except for the mask. My guy was going full DIY here, bro. Slapped on some McFarlane Spidey eyes with some white and black paint. How would he even see through that? No clue. And this would have been the first live-action Spider-Man movie costume with fabric lenses. Here's your Uncle Jimmy dressed as Spider-Man at your 8th birthday party. First of all, this costume tells me one thing. Peter's got some fucking sick design skills. You're telling me he fucking got a Sharpie and drew all those web lines in perfect symmetry? Oh my god, Zendaya's your girlfriend, you got superpowers, and now you can do this? Someone please nerf this guy. I like the lens, a good alternative if he didn't have the mechanical ones. They remind me of the Superior Spider-Man lens, which, hey, maybe we should pair this homemade costume with the Superior Spider-Man costume. That would be a fucking trip. However, I do have to say that this looks like as if a guy bought a Spider-Man costume and just cut everything from the waist down and threw that away and cut the sleeves off and just kept the mask and the torso and just wore that as a t-shirt over a blue onesie. Still, I kind of fuck with it, I can't lie. This isn't Doctor Strange, this is Dr. Normal. So this is a Doctor Strange suit variant where they considered having his robes made in Wakanda. That was a joke, by the way, in case you couldn't tell. I mean, what can I say? Just boring. Cool, but boring. It looks as if Fox was making a Doctor Strange movie and felt the need to apply their no color rule to this costume. Don't get me wrong, the black looks sick. I'm always a sucker for black and red, but it would have been a step backwards in my opinion. I mean, we only got the yellow gloves once. I mean, it did look kind of weird when they showed it that one time in Thor Ragnarok. It looked like dishwashing gloves. But come on, you guys can work on it. Mute the yellow a bit, I don't know. Here's Doctor Man. I know people might hate me for this, but I'm glad this wasn't in the movie. Apparently, in an early script of Infinity War, Tony transfers his Mark 50 suit to Doctor Strange to protect him from Ebony Moore's torture. In fact, we have another piece by the same artist depicting that very scene. Not sure how armor protects you from magic like that. Is that how it works? I have no idea. And this is just my opinion. The suit changing color and design to fit Strange is a bit much. If I could suspend all disbelief, which I should because it's a fucking fictional superhero movie, then yeah, maybe I can get behind it. But with the Eye of Agamotto and the arc reactor with the symbols around it, come on. You're gonna tell me this wasn't considered just to make more merchandise money? This does kind of trip me out though because he kind of does look like a more comic accurate Tony Stark. And this was near the beginning of the movie too. Let's not pretend that the movie needed more fan service when we had the Gargantuan that was Endgame coming right after this. And if you want me to check out more rejected MCU character designs, I did do a part 1 to this way back when, and I did do a DCEU version as well, so check those out if you haven't already. Check out my second channel for random vlogs and videos. Check out my discussion channel for news and my thoughts and discussions about movies and episodes and shit, and my letterbox, and I'll see you next week. See ya!